It's hard to think of a similar product with such strong demand that it can generate more than $20 billion in revenue with zero advertising spend. We do say that from time to time, and I think it's often overlooked.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining, and I want to welcome the people who are new. We've had a lot of people subscribe over the last couple days, and I really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Welcome. So I'm trying to do something new today and take a look at what Tesla might be worth purely as a brand. And so I'm going to compare what Tesla is spending on advertising, which is almost nothing, to what Ford and actually GM and Ferrari are spending as well. And I'm going to look at the type of returns that those companies are getting on their spending, and then we're going to look at what type of returns Tesla is getting to try to think about how much Tesla as a brand could be worth.
You know, when you have a product that really resonates with customers, the word of mouth grows like wildfire. And that seems to be what.
Yeah, but it's a little bit. I mean, honestly, in some groups of, especially men in Silicon Valley, if you show up and read like a label of a peanut jar, they'd be thrilled with the situation. So, I mean, a lot of this does base around you, like the idea of you and the excitement around this exciting entrepreneur.
I mean, I'm not sure. I think I deserve less credit than that, actually. I mean, what Tesla's done, and we have a phenomenal team. There's like 15,000 people at the company. Worked super hard to create compelling products, to create great cars.
And first, take a look at this clip from a documentary about Shelby American. And there's a documentary on Netflix right now that I really think you should check out. It tells the story of Carroll Shelby and his development of the Cobra. And there's a really cool part in the documentary where they talk about how his car got so popular that they had to expand their shop into an airport hangar at LAX. Check it out. It reminded me a little bit of Tesla. Here it is.
Carroll Shelby was a promoting genius.
The shop became really super overcrowded, and they realized they had to do something and get a bigger shop.
So the great Carroll Shelby is going to build a car to beat Ferrari with a Ford.
Correct.
So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you've watched to this point in the video, thank you. By the way, this isn't a Tesla-only channel, but I know that people are really interested in the company right now, and so I'm trying to do a little bit more on that. And so anyway, here's a couple different ways to look at what's going on between Tesla and some of the other popular auto companies, and I'm going to talk about why I excluded some of the other auto companies in a second. But Ford, for example, sells 5.5 million vehicles every year, and they spend $3.6 billion on advertising, and this is taken from their 2019 SEC filing. Tesla sold just under 400,000 vehicles in 2019, and they spent $27 million on, it's actually really not advertising, it's more, I think, marketing and events and things like that, but they spent $27 million last year, and that number was down a little bit from the prior years as well. So if you just look at the automotive sales, and these are automotive sales for all of these companies for 2019, with the exception of Ferrari's 2018, but if you look at Ford, so they get about $40 of sales for every ad dollar that they spend. And GM is about the same. And this surprised me a little bit. Ferrari is actually a little bit less efficient. They spend $20 on advertising for every dollar of sale that they get, but they are the most profitable of these companies, and they have some other business lines like Formula One and some other stuff. So anyway, so that's how I looked at it. And so Tesla is sort of off the charts here. They're getting $739 of sales for every $1 of ad spend that they have. And I know that people are going to be saying, well, some of that money goes into other things like in the SG&A line item, and they're not as profitable as some of these other companies, or at least as Ferrari. And that's true. But I think that strategy will pay dividends over time, because basically, if you can avoid spending money on advertising and you get it for free, and again, I'm going to go over how much I think that's worth for Tesla in a minute, but if you get that advertising for free, it really does mean that you can put that extra money into innovation and making the product better. And so I think that will pay off, hopefully, for Tesla over time. And here's another interesting way to look at it. I'll cover the detail in 1 second, but Google Trends. So on a 1-year average Google trend, Ford was at 86 and Tesla was at 22, Ferrari was at 12. But if you look at how much trend per $1 billion that they spend, Tesla is once again off the charts. So Tesla gets 815 points of Google trend for every $1 billion that they spend. And since they're spending way less than $1 billion, that's why that number looks so big. But the 815 compares to 24 for Ford and 71 for Ferrari. I didn't include GM here because there's no real way to add up all of their different brands. They have, Cadillac and a bunch of other stuff. So I just didn't want to put an incorrect number there, but that's what it looks like. And then you can see that on a global basis, the interest over time in Ford, at least according to Google Trends, is way above the other companies. And it's been that way for some time. This is a 5-year chart. Here's a 1-year chart. It looks about the same. And here is a 90-day chart. And you can actually see, though, that on a 90-day basis, Ford has been declining a little bit in terms of its premium to the other car manufacturers and Tesla in particular. So here are the 5, 1, and 3-year trends for all of these brands. And so the blue bar is the 5-year average trend, the red bar is the 1 year, and the yellow is 3 months. So you can see, with the exception of Tesla, that each of the brands have kind of been down and to the right a little bit. Ferrari's flattish, but Tesla is kind of up and to the right. And here are the companies indexed to Ford. So this is sort of a weird concept, but I came up with the idea of just indexing the Google trend performance of these different car companies to Ford, so you could kind of see how they were performing relative to Ford. Over a 5-year average, Tesla as a percentage of Ford was 17%, but it's climbed to 26% on a 1-year basis and climbed to 35% on a 3-month basis. And yeah, probably some of that has to do with the interest in the stock and those things, but you can see that GM is relatively flat compared to Ford, and Ferrari's growing from about 12 to 17%, but not as much as Tesla. So this is just an estimate. It's not investment advice, and I just really thought that it was an interesting exercise to do, and feel free to agree or disagree with it. But I wanted to look at and say, okay, given that the big automakers, Ford and GM, spend about $500 per car, then how much would it be worth to Tesla if they didn't have to spend that money? And so one of two things would happen. Either they wouldn't spend the money and it would go right down to the bottom line and the shareholders would get it, or they'd put that money into extra innovation to make the product better and get their market share to continue to increase. So just looking at things in a simple way, if they were selling 1 million cars and they were saving $500 in ad spend per car, and I put a 10 times multiple on that, then that would be worth $5 billion to the company. And I'm assuming they have 250 million shares outstanding, which assumes a lot of incremental dilution from where they're at now, because right now they're at about 190-ish million pro forma for that capital raise that they announced last week. Elon gets about 20 million shares if everything goes according to plan for him. And then I'm just adding in another 40 million shares just to be, I think, conservative. So anyway, at 1 million cars, the lack of ad spend would be worth $20 a share to Tesla. And over time, if they can get up to something like 10 million vehicles, which is admittedly way above where Ford and GM are at, but that's worth $200 a share. And if they get to 5, which is a little bit below where Ford and GM are, then that would be worth about $100 a share. And this brand value sort of, in my opinion, does include the halo effect that Tesla gets from having Elon as their CEO and being affiliated with the Boring Company and being affiliated with SpaceX. And the reason is because ultimately, over the very long term, to determine a brand value, you really just want to see how much money that brand can generate in terms of sales. So I think this analysis is accurate in the sense that it reflects what Tesla could potentially sell based off of the collective brand identity that it has as a result of all these different things: solar, Boring, SpaceX, all that stuff. And so anyway, this is what I thought. Let me know what you think. And this is pretty much the end of the video, but I want to thank you again so much for all the support, for all of the comments that you leave. I'm going to be reading some of them in upcoming videos. I'm also going to be talking about some of the comments that people left in terms of name suggestions for my channel. I'm going to rename it. If you didn't know that, it's not a great name right now, but I think it will get better in the future. So I'm going to thank some of those people, and stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up soon. Anyway, I hope you have a really great day. Thank you for watching this, and talk to you soon. Bye.